Hi everyone, and welcome to the Precious Metal Workshop's first ever Meet the Makers. And today you have me, Cameron Murdoch, who's a member of the Precious Metals Workshop, Amanda McGrattan, hopefully you know which one's which, and, and we're joined with Ian Nicholson, who is actually the founder and director of the Precious Metal Workshop and his own company. This is Ian. It's lovely to see you both.
Good to see you too, buddy.
Yeah, and you.
So today what we're going to do in all the future Meet the Makers is just to chat to a maker, find out about their life and who they are. And actually maybe each time there'll be a variety of different interviewees. So today it's Amanda and me going to be asking Ian lots of questions. So I'm going to hand over to Amanda.
Okay. Hi, Ian.
Good morning.
Basically, can you just kick us off by telling us a bit about yourself, like how you became a jeweler, how you started the PMW business?
Sure. So, long story short, I think it really came down to growing up as a kid. Dad had a workshop, and I was always fascinated by all the tools and equipment that he had in there. So I liked working three-dimensionally. And Mum did a bit of pottery and also ink drawings, and I loved the creativity that came from that. And I find that very much in school as well, that through dyslexia and the educational system, I struggled at all this sort of more academic classes, but excelled in the creative ones. Did art and design technology, where it was really where I finished school, and ended up doing three-dimensional design at Northumbria at Newcastle, which covered, it was very broad-based design. It covered furniture, interiors, fine product and jewellery. And it wasn't until my last year that the technician there, Derek, showed me the lost wax casting process. And I fell in love with it completely. So I specialised in fine product and jewellery. And I saw it more as small-scale sculptures as opposed to jewellery. Mm-hmm. And ended up producing a range of rings out of silver that I carved out of wax, and that then led to me sort of being a self-employed jeweler about 20 years ago, and it's been quite an organic development since then. I found workshop space in the Out of the Blue drill hole, really enjoyed working with people, started teaching and just expanded the rooms to where we are now. With 5 studios here, 4 of which are workshop spaces, or studio spaces rather, for jewelers in residence, and workshop facilities for them to have access to, and then my room that I operate as a ethical goldsmith out of, under the title This Is Ian.
Hi, so I'll take the baton over from Amanda, Ian. Just to ask you, obviously, you didn't quite state it, but you've been in business probably now for 20 years as a jewellery designer, business owner, manager, director. For other people in the jewellery industry, what challenges have you found kind of have cropped up for you in your lifetime as a jeweller?
I think there's a couple of things there that have been walls and hurdles. Certainly, if you go out self-employed, whilst there is huge benefits to that, of being your own boss, the freedom that comes with it, the off side to that, the flip side to the coin, is that it's tough. You are in charge of everything. So you, whilst you are enjoying being a jeweler, sitting at the bench and being creative, you're also the technician, the bookkeeper, the accountant, the janitor. You have to do everything yourself, and it's hard work in order to not just survive, but then to thrive as well. So for people who would potentially want to follow their own route into self-employment, then you really do need to have a good business sense behind things too. The creativity may come to you naturally, but if you cannot get that business side under your belt, then that's going to be a struggle. Now, for me personally, the biggest struggles have actually been not to whether or not you're busy with your work, because when you're self-employed, there is more things to do every day than there are hours you have to do them, as you both will well know.
Yeah.
So it comes down to motivation. And that is the key thing that I think will get you through your work to succeed. And that is the thing that I've struggled with the most, is staying motivated. So there's lots, and this is sort of non-business, there's lots of things you can do to benefit your own ability to be empowered, to be inspired, to want to be successful. And it's really looking after yourself. So it's looking after yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, ensuring that you are doing all the right things by you, and then you should find that you do have the motivation needed in order to be who you need to be to run your business. So I learned everything, business-wise as I went along, and I've, had my own struggles with motivation, and you just sort of have to keep on pushing through it.
So Ian, following on, as a designer maker for This Is Ian, where do you draw your inspiration, you get your influences to do the work that you're currently doing?
I think the biggest thing that influenced me was when I was traveling some 20 years ago, and I found myself with an opportunity to visit silver mines in Potosi in Bolivia. And it was important for me to do that because I thought, as a jeweler working with predominantly silver at the time, I need to know at least where some of this metal comes from and the conditions around it. And it was one of the most horrific experiences of my life. I was, you're at about 4,000 meters above sea level and 100 meters underground. And there's no oxygen. There's just toxic dusts and a lack of oxygen. And I met this young boy who I think he was around about 12, called Juan. And I gave him and his dad dynamite so that they could extract the fine particles of metal from the rock. And that experience really stayed with me. My lungs hurt every second I was down there. And there are children down these mines for up to 12 hours a day. And I learned pretty quickly afterwards that people tend not to live past the age of about 30, 35 through tunnel collapse or silicosis, which is a long-term lung disease. And I was pretty horrified by this and completely naive and unaware of the artisanal mining sector and how bad things were. And I pretty much decided there and then in good conscience that I couldn't continue to operate as a jeweler working with a metal that I can sell for whatever price, knowing that it's come from a source that is effectively killing children. And that's been a massive influence behind where I find myself now as an ethical goldsmith. And I will work only with the best responsibly sourced metals. So with the likes of fair trade and fair mined golds and silvers, as well as responsibly sourced gemstones. Lab grown is a really interesting. They're not new, but they're getting bigger and more available for people to use and work with. And that's what inspires me. It's knowing that I'm working with materials that are inherently beautiful. It almost doesn't matter what I make. The products I make at the end of it could be a bit rubbish, but they are beautiful because of the materials that I work with, knowing that they are from exploitation-free supply chains. And that is to me priceless. That is really redefining what is precious when you're working with precious gems and precious metals.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, thanks for that. I just want to take that a stage further because you were saying to Amanda about your influences, but one thing I'm really keen to know is, do you have a favourite piece? What was your ideas behind it, and what is it about it that you connect with?
That's a tough one. There's lots of things that I've made that I love. I'm not entirely sure I have a favorite. But I have that sits on the wall beside me here, something that has been used in the art world throughout for centuries, and I made many years ago, was a chess set. I can probably just pull it down and show here. Now these are all silver pieces, and you can see they differ in height wise to help differentiate between what the pieces are, and the markings that are on the heads as well also give you an indication as to how they move across the board, and they're all magnetic. So this you can hang on your wall, and it's an interactive piece of artwork or sculpture. And I was taught, forgive me while I put this back up on the wall, I was taught chess by my grandfather, and I love the game, and I've always been fascinated about how it crosses over into the art world as well. And it was really important for me at the time to produce my own sort of set of it, and to join those artists that have made their own chess sets. I would always get a little bit frustrated how chess sets would always either be tucked away in a cupboard somewhere, or this big ornate elaborate thing just taking up space in a room. So the idea was to really take away from those two negatives that I saw around it. And as you see, it sort of sits on the wall, and it can be enjoyed as a piece of sculpture visually, played as a game of chess, and is just a nice object to look at. So that would be one of my favorite things that I've done, and I'm sure I will probably revisit it again in the future.
Thanks for that, Ian. And I get the feeling that there'll be a chess tournament at some point in the PMW.
If anyone wants a game, I'm up for it.
I don't know how to play it, so count me out.
Well, it's a good thing that there's self-contained instructions on these pieces for you, Amanda.
Ah, okay. Don has tried to teach me lots of things. So Ian, this is a crazy time that we're living in through COVID and lockdown. Lots of changes are having to happen. Like people like myself and Cameron can't come into the studio at the moment. So what are you doing to help us get back to the studio? Have you made any changes to the actual workshop, like health and safety wise, etc.?
Well, unfortunately, in a past life, I have been a health and safety advisor. So I've taken that knowledge and skill set, performed a pretty thorough risk assessment, and we've put various different measures in place to allow as safe access as is possible or reasonably practicable. Now, at the moment, we're only allowing two makers in residence into any room at any one time. Currently, face masks are compulsory by the government. We have a booking system so that people know when it's their time and when they can have access. And we've also set aside evenings and mornings outside of regular business hours, whereby if somebody who was shielding or wanted to be the only person in that space, they can have access and have the whole workshop to themselves. Cool. It is a tough time. It is difficult for everybody. We have other measures in place as well, which all of our makers in residence are currently aware of. We are hoping that in the not too distant future, we will be able to open up to membership, classes and clients again. But the phase we find ourselves in just now is just makers in residence only, and two at a time. But it's good to have people in and around the workshop again. It's good to see that we are having to start creative wheels turning again.
Cool. I look forward to coming back at some point soon, hopefully.
We miss you here.
And I'll maybe see you sometime in 2021.
Well, we miss you here too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks for joining us, Ian, today. It's been a pleasure to have you. Me and Amanda know you, a lot of the makers do, but there'll be a lot of people watching this who don't. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Pleasure. And look forward to our next month's Meet the Maker. Who's that, Cameron?
Well, we're actually joined by the vivacious, illustrious and talented Amanda McGrattan next month.
Fantastic.
I'll probably sit there and say nothing.
Well, it'll be up to our interviewees to make sure we get the right information out.
Mm-hmm.
But for everybody watching, stay safe in what is still a surreal time, and we're sending you all our love. Take care.
Yep.
Bye for
Thanks,
now.
guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.